Okay, so yesterday we went through my Ice Barrier Runick deck. We went through a deck profile explaining why the two engines work really well together, and we explained what all of the Ice Barrier cards do. If you haven't watched that and you don't know what the Ice Barrier cards do, I recommend you watch that video before you watch this one. But in today's video, what we're going to do is we are going to go through a few Ice Barrier Runick combos. We're going through 3 of them specifically, so this video isn't like 50 minutes long. And what we're going to do is we are going to start with Hexa plus a single Runick spell, which is a very bread and butter combo for this deck. Very consistent to get to, and is pretty powerful. Normally you would like to have more Runick spells for extra bodies, but this is just fine on its own. So, the first thing we need to talk about is when do we activate our Runick spells to summon Hugin? A lot of Runick combo decks like to activate their Runick spells in the draw phase to summon Hugin to play around draw on Lockbird. Now, we have an issue with that when we open specifically Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier. And that is that this monster, his effect is to send a Ice Barrier to graveyard and then modulate his level to the monster of the monster's scent. Now, he's a level 1 at base, which means if this is negated, with a Hugin, you'd be making a level 3 Synchro. Now, level 3 Synchros are not very good. There's a few okay ones like Metal Marcher and that sort of stuff, but none that are typically that great. And also, we don't have a lot of extra deck space. So to play around that, instead of activating this in the draw phase, what we're going to do is we are going to normal summon our Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier, and we're going to activate the effect to send a level 3 or lower Ice Barrier from deck to graveyard. We're going to allow our opponent a chance to respond. If they do, or if they don't, what we're going to do is we are going to chain our Runick spell to summon. Now, this means that it also opens up the chain again for our Hexa to be negated, so they do have the opportunity to imperm this or veil this again if they chose not to. If they do, that's fine. At resolution of the Runick spell, we can summon a Sleipnir and make it 10. If they don't, we can summon a copy of Hugin, which of course is at the top of my extra deck. What this means is in the new chain, what we can do is, well, after the Hexa has resolved, I should say, in the new chain, we have the opportunity to construct the chain how we want to. Assume there's a card in hand to discard for the Hugin. I just didn't want the combo to look too messy. So we can either go Chain Link 1 Hugin and Chain Link 2 Mirror Magic to chain block our Hugin from an Ash Blossom, or I guess essentially just an Ash Blossom. Or we can go Chain Link 1 Mirror Magic, Chain Link 2 Hugin to protect the Mirror Magic, depending on the composition of your hand and what you really need to resolve. In this case, we're going to assume that both resolve, since this is a combo video, and we're going to search for a copy of Georgius and a copy of Fountain. Now, from here, since we control an Ice Barrier monster, we can summon our Georgius from our hand to our field, and then we can activate the effect of Georgius on the field when it is normal or special to summon a Ice Barrier monster from hand or graveyard. This allows us to summon back our copy of Mirror Magic. Now from here, we have summoned 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So what is best to do is to use our Hexa and our Hugin to go into a copy of Herald of the Arclight. This is a Omni Negate, and we are summoning it on number 5, so we can play as best as we can around Nibiru. Now from here, what we're going to do is we're going to use the effect of Mirror Magic to tribute off this Georgius, and we are going to summon 3 tokens to the field. I'm not entirely sure how much of this is framed, so I'm going to like cram them together like this. This is going to increase our Mirror Magic's level to a level 5. Now from here, we can use our Mirror Magic and one of our tokens to go into a copy of Coral Dragon, which is a 6. And then we can use our Coral Dragon and our 2 tokens to go into a copy of Dragite, which of course is a spell or trap negate. So this is the end board of exclusively, well, we have to resolve Coral to draw a card. So this is the end board of Hexa plus a single Runick. It doesn't look that strong, but by adding an extra Runick to this board, what we can do is actually end on a 10 instead of Dragite. So instead of, so let's say that we have another Runick in hand. Hey, it's what I set up earlier. We can put this Dragite back, put this Coral Dragon back, and when we are at this point, what we can actually do is we can activate our Runick Fountain. I'll put it there for the time being. Activate our Slumber, and we can summon a copy of Gary. Not only is this going to give us an extra body, but it's allow us to resolve our Fountain to put 2 back and then draw 2 cards. And from here, we can use the Gary and the Georgius to go into a copy of Lancia. So this is a bit of a stronger board. You've had to use an extra runic spell to get there, but you're very likely to have 2 runic spells in hand, especially if you were resolving other cards to draw. And this is an Omni Negate plus 2 summons from deck, and this has an effect if it was removed. Probably stronger than the Dragite board. It's less like typical negates, but we are going to get to more. And we get to keep this Mirror Magic on board, which means we, when this is removed from the field, which is likely to happen on our opponent's turn, we get another search, which is quite nice. If you have like another runic spell to summon another monster, you could also just turn this and that into an SP, which is something to consider. But that is the basic combo for Hexa plus a runic or 2 runics or something along those sort of lines with no extra extenders. And it's a pretty fine board, it's pretty consistent to get to, and it is actually pretty powerful. So we'll go on to the next combo now. I have set all these up in advance just for simplicity. So this next combo is, we'll do that one last, I think, because it's less runicky. We'll do this one next. So this next combo is going to be a runic spell, a mirror magic, and a card to discard. This is going to be triple tactics down, just to be a blank card. So what we're going to do is we are going to start this time in the draw phase, because we don't have Hexa in our hands. We don't have to worry about that level modulation coming into effect with the monsters we can make. So in the draw phase, we can use Runic Dispelling to summon a copy of Hugin. And on the next chain, we can use Hugin Effect, pitching this Mirror Magic from our deck to our hand to search for a copy of Fountain. From here, we can trigger our Mirror Magic, still in the draw phase, of course, to search for a Ice Barrier monster, and we can grab a copy of Revealer. Now we're going to go to the main phase, and what we can do is we can normal summon our copy of Revealer and use the effect, pitching this card in our hand to summon a copy of Georgius from the deck, since it is a tuner. Probably in attack mode, it doesn't really matter. From here, we can activate Georgius' effect to special summon an Ice Barrier from hand or graveyard, so we can summon this copy of Mirror Magic. From here, we could use the Revealer and the Georgius to synchro into a copy of the Lancia. You want to do this on summon 5, ideally. We have no real way of negating Nib here, but by summoning Lancia on summon 5, this means if our opponent does Nibiru was here, the Lancia will be removed by our opponent's card, and we will be able to summon a Trishula from our extra deck to not only remove that Nibiru on the field, but also be able to rip a card from the hand, which is, it's not as good as stopping a Nibiru, but it is probably the best way of playing into the Nibiru. So ideal that you do summon this on summon 5 if possible. We're not done yet, because we can use our Mirror Magic to tribute our Hugin, since it is an effect monster, to summon 3 tokens. So we can summon these 3 tokens to the board, and then we can go Mirror Magic and a token into a copy of Coral Dragon, as we did previously. And then we can go the other 2 tokens and the Coral Dragon straight into a Dragite. This, of course, is going to trigger our Coral Dragon to draw a card. We are locked into waters at this point, so we can't summon any more runics, even if we do draw them. But if you were to draw something like a Slumber or a Tip, we can then activate the Fountain to be able to draw afterwards. It's not all that consistent, but even if you can't activate a runic spell, you can still just activate your Fountain and keep the runic spells in hand anyway. So this is the end board for, what was it, a runic spell, Mirror Magic, and a discard. So it's still pretty good. We are summoning 2 monsters from the deck or from graveyards. So we're going to be summoning our General Ryo, which is the Great Floodgate, and be able to summon this Georgius back from graveyard, which is also going to get us follow-up in the case of Revealer or Mirror Magic, and also stop our opponent from tribute summoning if we do go against that Flu matchup. Well, I guess they don't special summon, so you're not really getting Revealer off this. But yeah, you know, it's still not that bad of a board. We'll go into the last combo now, once I pull out these extra deck stuff from the combo we just did. And we'll go into our last combo. Now, this is going to be a non-runic combo. This is basically a Ice Barrier pure combo that you do in Runic Ice Barrier, and it requires Revealer of the Ice Barrier and a discard to activate its effect. So what we're going to do is we are going to normal summon our Revealer, and we're going to activate the effect, discarding our card in hand to special summon a copy of Hexa from the deck. From here, we could use Hex's effect to send a Mirror Magic from deck to the graveyard, increasing its level to 2, but more importantly, triggering the Mirror Magic to be able to search for an Ice Barrier card. In this case, we are going to grab a Speaker for the Ice Barrier. Since we control an Ice Barrier monster, we can activate the effect of Speaker to special summon itself, and then we can overlay our Revealer and our Speaker into a copy of Bahamut Shark. It's important to remember that Revealer's effect to summon locks you into waters, where Mirror Magic locks you into water synchros if you use its on-field effect to summon tokens. So at this point, we're not locked into synchros, just water monsters. From here, we can detach this copy of Speaker to special summon a Toad, which you will notice is on summon 5, since we have summoned Revealer, Hexa, Speaker, and Bahamut Shark. So Toad is on summon 5, so we do contest Nib in this combo. And from here, we can use the Bahamut Shark and the Hexa to go into a Link monster. We can go into this copy of Coral Anemone. From here, we could use Coral Anemone's effect to special summon back a water with 1500 or less attack, so we can summon back this Mirror Magic. And since it's an effect monster, we'd use Mirror Magic's effect to tribute the Marincess to special summon 3 tokens to our field, hopefully all in frame. From here, we could do what we have done so many times before. We can use a token and the Mirror Magic to go for a copy of Coral Dragon. But this time, instead of going for a Dragite, which we're actually going to do, is we're going to use the effect of the Speaker in our graveyard. Since we control Ice Barrier tokens, they are Ice Barrier by names, we can activate the effect, which is if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish it from the graveyard to summon an Ice Barrier token. So we get an additional token. So we have a level 6 tuner and 3 level 1 tuners. That makes 9, so we can use our 3 tokens and our Coral Dragon to go for a copy of Ravenous Croc. From here, we can go Chainlink 1, Ravenous Croc, Chainlink 2, Coral Dragon to play against a late Ash Blossom, I guess, which essentially, this is going to allow us to draw 3 cards. This lets us draw 1, so we just draw 4 cards. And we have a pop from the Croc, the Totally Awesome Negate, and also the follow-up it grants us by being able to add back these 4 cards in hand that we drew, as well as 3 other cards in hand, which we didn't use because it's a 2-card combo. We start with 5 cards. So with 7 cards in hand at this point. We are locked into water synchros at this point, and we can't really use any Runicks before we do this combo because we need the EMZ clear for the Coral Anemone. But there is like the potential chance that you draw like a Slumber and a Tip, and you'll be able to get your draws that way. But even if you don't have access to Fountain, you could just like set a bunch of Runick spells, and your board is not only quite strong, it's also quite layered in its interruptions, since you have like a Negate, a Pop at any point, and you also have like your Runick spells. This does make the Croc smaller and does give you less cards to be able to discard for its effect, but it's still a pretty strong board off of just like a starter and a discard. So yeah, I quite like this combo. Those are the only combos I actually wanted to show today. There are a few more, like there's not like... Essentially, you'll basically be using the basis of these combos when you're playing a lot of the time, but depending on the number of Runick spells or the number of extenders you have, it just slightly deviates to you having like extra stuff on board. Like quite a lot of the time, you're going to be ending on a board of like a Croc plus a Herald and a Lancia, or like the Croc might be a Dragite, or like you might have like the Heralds and the Chengying as well, or you might have an SP on the board, which I don't own for obvious reasons. There are like plenty of different varieties of end boards that all have like different effects, and yeah, it's all very, you have to like just kind of like play it and just work it out, because I can't show you every variant of the combo with every different sort of extender you could have in hand, or how many Runick spells. These are the bread and butter sort of like basic combos, and you can build on these with your extenders, and you'll work it out if you do decide to play this deck. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this quick little combo video, and I hope you enjoyed the deck profile yesterday, and like this overall look at Runick Ice Barrier. I'm very excited to play it when the cards come out on the 20th of June. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. In what, 6 months? I'm really inconsistent with this shit nowadays.